everyone, Chris here, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to my reading vlog for the Readathon Rebellion. So I decided to do a separate reading vlog for the Readathon Rebellion, and I have 7 books that I need to read. I have these 6 that I have physically, and Murder in India, which I read the ebook of. And I say read because I have definitely started my TBR. So first up, I read Murder in India, which I read for 2 or more POVs, which was objective 1. And I gave this 3.5 stars. This is the, I think, 7th book in the Tommy and Evelyn Christie mystery series. And this follows Tommy and Evelyn, and we see things from both of their points of view. This is a historical mystery series. And in this one, Tommy and Evelyn are going to India on vacation. Everybody but Evelyn and one other woman goes out for the day for some sort of tourist thing. Evelyn, because she's not feeling great, and the other woman because she's got a migraine. And when this woman is found dead, the police in India immediately start looking at Evelyn because she was the only person who had met this woman who wasn't on the tour with the rest of the group. And so suspicion naturally falls on Evelyn. So she and Tommy start to dig into things because 1, they want to get justice for this woman, and 2, because, well, they know Evelyn didn't do it. So who did? Because they also agree it doesn't make sense for her to have been randomly murdered. But how could somebody have murdered her if the entire group was together during the time of the murder? I was not as big a fan of this one. I wasn't super invested in the murder and the mystery. I missed our regulars, and I think I would have enjoyed this more had they been at home. I have said this for a few of them. We've had a few mysteries in this series that take place away from their house and their little town where they live, and I prefer the books that take place in town where we have all of our familiar characters and the routine feels familiar and you get some of that playful banter. You would think that with the idea that nobody could have killed her but somebody had to kill her, so who did it? I would have been more invested in the mystery, but I wasn't. There was also a character from Tommy and Evelyn's past that popped up in this one who I didn't like when I read about them originally, and I certainly didn't like them popping up again. So this wasn't my favorite book in the series, but I do enjoy the series, and I tend to find them really quick, easy reads, so I don't mind continuing it as a nice little palate cleanser in between other books. Then I ended up landing on a training prompt, and the training prompt I got was to read a book that was published prior to your current read. And at the time, I think I was reading a book published in 2024, so I picked up a book published in 2022, and that was Explorers at Stardust City, and I gave this 4.5 stars. This is the 6th and most recent / final book in the Explorers Club series. There have been 2 arcs. In the first arc, we follow Stella, who really wants to be part of the Polar Bear Explorers Club, but they don't let in girls, and so she kind of has to contend with that. And in this arc, books 4, 5, and 6, we've been following Ursula, who is half human, half mermaid, and lives with the Ocean Squid Explorers Club, and some things go down that requires Ursula to really kind of step up. And her being half human, half mermaid, which is a big secret of hers, is something she might not be able to keep a secret much longer if she wants to be able to do what she needs to do in this particular arc of the series. I have not enjoyed following Ursula as much as I did Stella, but I did still really enjoy this. I like the way this arc wrapped up. If this is the final book, I could be satisfied, but I feel like there is definitely a thread that was left open for the possibility of future books, and there are definitely several other Explorers Clubs besides the Polar Bear Explorers Club and the Ocean Squid Explorers Club, so it could be really interesting to have an arc following a character who was a part of their clubs. So I would be open to more in the series if Alex Bell chooses to go back to it. I really like the friendships that are developed in the series, and book 6 is no exception. Every single book has had new adventures and new friendships created. Speaking of adventure, the adventure in this one was really, really solid. Like I said, I like how it wrapped up the arc, and I just really, really love the series and have such a fun time with it. Then I rolled and got Side Quest, and so I had to steal a book from somebody else's TBR, and I went with a read-along I'm doing with Bookstara, and I picked Yours Truly. This is a companion novel, and it's the 2nd book in this companion novel series, and this is a romance, and in this one we're following Brianna, who is dealing with her chronically ill brother. He's got kidney issues and needs a kidney transplant and is really struggling with what that means for his future. She is about to be officially divorced and is reeling from that. Her ex-husband was a jerk, And so on the one hand, she's excited to be free of him, but on the other hand is still struggling with everything that went down in that relationship. At the same time, she's hoping to get a promotion at work. Unfortunately, there is a new doctor named Jacob on the scene who seems to be in the running for that promotion. And Brianna's not happy about this. As for Jacob, he's new to this hospital, and when he meets Brianna, things just don't go right. It's like the opposite of a meet cute. Everything that could go wrong does go wrong, and he comes off looking like a jerk, and he ends up writing her a letter because he has really bad anxiety, and he feels like it is the best way he can apologize for their not so great meeting. And this leads to Brianna softening on him a little, and they start writing letters back and forth. And from there, a friendship kind of develops. I thought the first part of this book was really, really cute. I really loved the letter writing. I liked the way the start of their relationship developed. And I was feeling it was potentially going to be a high 4.25 star, maybe even hitting that 4.5 star mark. And I don't read romance as a rule, despite the fact that I've kind of broken that particular rule a lot this year. However, the reason I don't tend to read romances is I don't like spice. I'm not a fan of spicy romances. I don't need spice in my books. I prefer when there is exactly zero spice in my romances. And so there is no such thing as a romance for me that has spicy scenes that will get a 5 star, because you actively cannot get a 5 star for me and be a book that I just absolutely adore and love and would give 5 stars to if there are spicy scenes. And there are some spicy scenes in here. And so that's why I'm saying it was getting a high 4.25, which for me, I'm marking you off half a star if there's spicy scenes. You're not going to get above a 4.5. So saying I was giving this book a high 4.25 is telling you it was one of the best romances I have read that had spicy scenes in it. And then maybe the last third, I just wasn't in love with some of the choices that the characters made and how some of the ending of this book played out. And that dropped my rating down. But the beginning was so solid that I think it kept it up. It's a low 4, I will say that. It was debating between being a high 3.75 or a low 4. But I went with a low 4 because I really, really, really loved the beginning. And I don't know, by the end, it just kind of lost me a little bit. There was a lot of stuff in the end that felt like unnecessary and thrown in because it felt like you needed to keep the book going for a little bit longer. And I didn't enjoy that bit of it. So, yeah, not a bad read. I don't know that I enjoyed it more than the first one. I enjoyed the first bit more than the first one, but I think the ending dropped this down so that I didn't enjoy it as much as Part of Your World. I'll be curious to see where I rank book 3. So, yeah, that's where I ended up on this one. And I think a lot of people will like it better than me because they don't mind the spicy scenes. But as somebody who doesn't, like I said, it was already coming in to any rating I have with a disadvantage. And that is my update. I have read half of the books on this TBR. And, well, when you look at what I have left, I have 2 graphic novels, a cozy mystery, and I think this is a YA, so not exactly hard reading left for me. I will tell you, I will be reading this. I will tell you that I've read it, but it is a 5-star prediction, and I do an entirely separate vlog for those. So you won't hear my thoughts on this one. In this vlog, you'll have to wait for my 5-star prediction vlog, but I will at least let you know that I read it. So that is my current update. Hopefully, I will be able to come back soon and give you an update because these 2, like I said, will be really, really easy to read. And yeah, we'll see where we go from here. But so far, I'm enjoying my Readathon Rebellion TBR. So here I am checking in for the Readathon Rebellion, and it's actually the 26th, so we're almost to the end of the month. Luckily, I have managed to read 2 more books. The next book I needed to read was It Rhymes with Decay, and this is a 5-star prediction, so I will be diving into my deep thoughts and my rating in that video, but I will say that this is a graphic memoir that looks at George Takei's life and his sexuality and coming out of the closet. And I will tell you that I really enjoyed it. Did it get the 5 stars? You'll have to wait for my 5-star prediction vlog for that. But I did enjoy it and I did read it. And I do think it is a really interesting look at George Takei's life and his journey. I think you don't need to know too much about George Takei to get a lot out of this. So don't let that put you off if you're unsure and don't really know much about him and are worried that you wouldn't get a lot from this, because I think he does a really good job at telling you exactly who he is and his journey, so you don't really need to go into it with a lot of knowledge. And he's got a very interesting history, so I definitely think it is worth the read. And then I read A Witch's Guide to Burning, and I gave this 4 stars. So this follows Singe, and she has magic and wakes up after having been burnt at the stake. A witch doctor and her toad friend show up to help heal Singe and see if they can't help her get back some of her memories, because when you get burned, you lose your memories. And she goes on this journey with the witch doctor and the toad to figure out who she used to be and heal from being burned and what she really wants out of life. I thought this was a really interesting look at choices and the kinds of choices you need to make, because each of our characters, the witch doctor, the toad, and Singe, are all going through something that is going to require them to make choices, and it is interesting to see how that plays out throughout the book. I also really like the medium of this because it is somewhat of a graphic novel. It's got lots of pictures and notes and words and bubbles, and it's just a really cool way to kind of tell a story. So it feels much more in-depth than a graphic novel, but it's not quite not a graphic novel, I guess. I mean, it is listed at my library as a graphic novel, so I guess it counts as a graphic novel. But I think it is really well done. And there's a lot of stuff to sink your teeth into because there's just so many words and things going on. Sometimes I feel like graphic novels can feel a little bit too brief, and I don't think this one had that problem. I do think maybe this was a smidge wordy for a graphic novel, if anything, but I did have a good time with it, and I enjoyed following Singe on her journey. So that just leaves me with Laying Down the Latte, which I know will be a really quick read from previous experience, because this is like book 21 or 22 in the series. They all have read fast. And In Deeper Waters, and I've never read anything by this author, so I have no idea whether this is going to be a quick read or not, if it's going to hook me or not. So I think there's a good chance I finish this one. This one's a little bit iffier, but we shall see. And I will check back in with you in October to let you know if I finished my Readathon Rebellion TBR. So it is officially October, which means the Readathon Rebellion has ended. And alas, I did not manage to get to my last book, In Deeper Waters. I didn't even get time to start it. But I did finish Laying Down the Latte. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. This is a cozy mystery series that follows Jules, who in the first book comes back to her hometown to help run her parents' bakery with her mother. In this one, she is headed to Costa Rica. She used to work on a cruise ship, and a former colleague invites her and some staff to come down to Costa Rica to learn more about the coffee brewing process, because Valentina, her former colleague, owns a family farm where that's what they do. They make coffee. Unfortunately, this vacation / work excursion doesn't go as planned, as shortly after Jules and co get there, someone is murdered. And so Jules ends up getting involved and trying to help Valentina figure out what is going on and who the murderer is, when all of these people are somehow attached to Valentina and her family business. I liked the mystery in this one, and I really liked the background stuff, which is interesting because we're in Costa Rica, so a lot of our main characters are back home in Jules' hometown and running the bakery and keeping things going while Jules is on this work excursion. And I thought it was a really interesting story and perspective. I really liked the coworker who went with Jules and how that played into the story. I thought it was really neat to have this character get a little bit more shine. I also like the way they kept our usual characters involved, and how while they weren't in Costa Rica, they did have moments where they popped in and out, and it made it feel like they weren't quite so far away. So I thought that balance was really well done. Although I am going to admit, I'm almost positive the next book does take place at the bakery, and I'm very, very excited about that because I've really missed being at Tort with all of our familiar faces and characters. So looking forward to going back to that, but didn't mind not being there in this one. And I thought the mystery was good. So easy 4 stars for this one. And that was how I did with the Readathon Rebellion. I got through, I think, 6 of 7 books I needed to read, which isn't bad given everything else I had going on in the month of September. I want to thank Mel for hosting. I had fun, even though I wasn't able to complete my TBR, and I hope you bring it back next year because I would love to take part in another round of the Readathon Rebellion. Did you take part in the Readathon Rebellion? And if so, did you finish your TBR? Let me know in the comment section below. All of my social media is linked in the description below if you'd like to come chat with me. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me coffee emojis in honor of laying down the latte. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!